Imagine your future son-in-law stealing your $25 million biotech empire while you plan his wedding, then banning you from the big day. But Lena crashes the reception, fires him mid-toast, and has security drag him out in handcuffs. Hit like if you think this mom delivered epic justice. What happens next will shock you.
Thank you, Eliza. It's still raw, but telling this story reminds me why I fought so hard. Let me start from the beginning, when trust turned into betrayal. I never thought I'd be the mother-in-law who ruins a wedding. But then again, I never thought my future son-in-law would steal my company while I helped plan his bachelor party. The champagne flute trembles in my hand as Ryan raises his microphone, that practiced smile spreading across his face like oil on water. 300 guests lean forward, expecting the usual groom's gratitude speech. They have no idea they're about to witness a corporate execution. But let me back up. Let me tell you how we got here, how a mother's love became a weapon, and how trust became the most expensive gift I ever gave. 3 months ago, I stood in BioNova's glass-walled boardroom, watching my daughter's face light up as I announced their wedding gift. The late afternoon sun caught the silver in my bob as I slid the funding documents across the mahogany table. I'm giving you both something I never had, a partnership built on trust and shared vision, I said, my voice steady despite the emotion building in my chest. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she read the numbers. $25 million in startup funding for Ryan's biotech venture, with her name as primary beneficiary. Ryan's hand found hers across the table, but his eyes stayed locked on mine. Lena, this is incredible. You're giving us our future. The irony tastes bitter now, like champagne left too long in the sun. I'd built BioNova from nothing after my first partner betrayed me 30 years ago, stealing our research and leaving me with nothing but determination and a newborn daughter. I swore I'd never let anyone take advantage of my family again. The universe has a sick sense of humor. Sarah deserves a partner who shares her vision for changing the world, I continued, watching Ryan's face carefully. Someone who understands that real success comes from lifting others up, not climbing over them. He nodded enthusiastically, playing the part perfectly. That's exactly what I want to build with her. Sarah squeezed my hand. Mom, you're giving us everything. That was the problem. 6 months earlier, the bridal boutique buzzed with the kind of excited energy that only comes with final fittings. Sarah stood on the pedestal in her grandmother's wedding dress, David's mother's dress, while I fastened the pearl necklace that had been in his family for 3 generations. Your father would have loved seeing you in his mother's pearls, I whispered, my fingers gentle against her neck. 3 generations of strong women, each one choosing love over fear. Sarah's reflections smiled back at me in the mirror. Tell me again about how Grandma Rose met Grandpa. I settled into the velvet chair, watching my daughter transform into a bride. She was a chemist when women weren't supposed to be scientists. He was the only man in her graduate program who treated her like an equal partner, not competition. Like Ryan does with me, Sarah said softly. Exactly like Ryan, I agreed, believing it completely. The seamstress pinned the final alterations while I shared stories of David's proposal, how he'd hidden the ring in a Petri dish, because he knew I'd find romance in the science we both loved. Sarah laughed at all the right moments, her happiness so pure it made my chest ache. I want what you and Dad had, she said as we prepared to leave. That partnership where you make each other better. I kissed her forehead, breathing in the vanilla scent of her hair. You'll have it, sweetheart. Ryan sees your brilliance the way your father saw mine. The dress hung in its garment bag between us as we walked to the car, carrying all our hopes for her future. I should have known that some men see brilliance as something to possess, not celebrate. 3 days ago, I sat in my home office at midnight, David's photo watching over me as I scrolled through board access emails that would shatter everything. The blue light from my laptop screen painted shadows across the walls lined with our achievements. Patents, awards, photos of Sarah at science fairs. My blood turned to ice as I read Ryan's systematic takeover plan, laid out in clinical detail across dozens of email chains. Wire transfers moving BioNova's R&D funds through interstate channels into his personal offshore accounts. My own board members, people I'd trusted for years, discussing how to transition leadership after the wedding. "He's not just stealing my company," I whispered to David's photo. "He's stealing our daughter's inheritance while making her thank him for it." The federal fraud was right there in black and white: wire transfers crossing state lines, falsified research reports, systematic embezzlement disguised as operational restructuring. $23 million of my life's work, vanishing into accounts I'd never authorized. But the worst part wasn't the money. It was the email thread titled "Sarah Management Strategy," discussing how to gradually reduce her involvement in decision-making once the funding transferred. They were planning to sideline my brilliant daughter in her own company. I printed everything. Every email, every transfer record, every piece of evidence that would destroy the man my daughter loved. My hands shook as the pages emerged from the printer, each one another nail in the coffin of Sarah's happiness. David would have known what to do. He always saw through people's masks better than I did. But David was gone, and I was alone with the knowledge that would break our daughter's heart. 2 days ago, I confronted Dr. Patricia Mills over the phone, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. I'd found the smoking gun buried in Ryan's payment records, consulting fees to Emma Chen, dated right after every conversation I'd had with Sarah about my growing concerns. "You violated every ethical boundary to convince my daughter I'm toxic," I said, pacing my kitchen while rain drummed against the windows. "For what? A consulting fee?" Patricia's voice cracked on the other end. "Lena, you don't understand. Ryan said you were trying to control Sarah's life, that you couldn't let go. So you fabricated psychological reports, told my daughter I was exhibiting pathological control patterns." The clinical terms felt like poison in my mouth. "I have the payment records, Patricia. $15,000 over 6 months to convince my own daughter that loving her made me dangerous." The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, Patricia whispered, "He said you tried to sabotage their happiness, that you couldn't handle not being the most important person in Sarah's life anymore." I laughed, the sound harsh and bitter. The most important person in Sarah's life should be Sarah, not some manipulative bastard who's stealing her future while paying her mother's therapist to gaslight her. "I thought I was helping." "You were helping," I cut her off, "just not Sarah." I hung up and stared at my reflection in the kitchen window. The woman looking back at me was a stranger. Silver hair perfectly styled, brown eyes hard as flint. I'd become exactly what they'd painted me as, a mother willing to destroy her daughter's happiness to protect her. The difference was, now I knew they were right to be afraid. Yesterday morning, my phone buzzed with a text from Margaret Chen, David's research partner, and one of the few people who still remembered what our family used to be. The attached photo made my coffee cup slip from nerveless fingers, shattering against the marble floor. The wedding program. Sarah had promised me a memorial section for David, a small tribute to the father who wouldn't be there to walk her down the aisle. Instead, I stared at a full-page spread honoring Ryan's parents, complete with a photo of them at their own wedding 30 years ago. "He didn't just erase David from the program," I whispered to the empty kitchen. "He erased him from our daughter's wedding entirely." My hands shook as I called Sarah, but it went straight to voicemail. Of course it did. Ryan had probably convinced her that taking my calls would be enabling my controlling behavior. I sat on the kitchen floor among the broken porcelain, holding my phone like a lifeline to a daughter who no longer trusted me. The memorial section had been important to Sarah. She'd cried when she told me about it, how she wanted her father's memory to bless her marriage. But Ryan had erased him, erased us, turned our family history into empty space for his own narrative. Well, he was about to learn that some things can't be erased. Last night, I stood in my closet choosing what to wear to my daughter's wedding, knowing it might be the last time she spoke to me. The navy Armani suit felt like armor as I slipped it on, David's wedding ring on a chain around my neck. In the mirror, I looked like exactly what I was, a woman who'd built an empire and lost a daughter. But empires, I'd learned, were useful things when it came time for war. "He wants to play corporate hardball with my daughter's life," I said to David's photo on my dresser. "Then he's about to learn why they call it a hostile takeover." I'd spent 30 years building safeguards, creating systems, establishing the kind of power that couldn't be stolen with charm and manipulation. Ryan thought he was playing chess, but he'd brought checkers to a war game. My phone buzzed with a final text from Sarah. "Mom, please don't make a scene tomorrow. I just want one perfect day." One perfect day. Built on lies, theft, and the systematic destruction of everything David and I had worked for. Built on the erasure of her father's memory and the betrayal of her mother's trust. I typed back, "I love you, sweetheart. Everything I do tomorrow is because I love you." Then I turned off my phone and finished getting ready for war. Because tomorrow, Ryan Adler was going to learn that some mothers don't just give their daughters away, they fight for them. And I'd been fighting corporate predators since before he learned to tie his shoes. The wedding was in 12 hours. Ryan had no idea that his bride's mother had just declared open season on his carefully constructed life. He was about to find out exactly what happened when you tried to steal from a woman who'd already lost everything that mattered. The grandfather clock in my hallway chimes 11:30 as I pull into Ryan's driveway, gravel crunching under my tires like broken promises. His townhouse glows with warm light, the picture of domestic bliss, if you ignore the corporate warfare documents I know are waiting inside. I need to try reasoning with him one last time, for Sarah's sake, if not for mine. The next afternoon, I sit across from Emma Chen in the coffee shop where she and Sarah have met every Sunday for 15 years. The familiar ritual feels like a mockery now, but I need to try reaching Sarah through the one person who's known her longest. "She won't take my calls," I say, watching Emma's face carefully, "but she'll listen to you, she always has." Emma's hands tremble around her latte cup. "Lena, I don't think that's a good idea. Sarah's made her choice and maybe you should respect that." Something in her voice, a rehearsed quality, like she's reciting lines, makes my blood run cold. I pull out my phone and scroll to the payment records I'd found buried in Ryan's consulting expenses. $1,500 a month for 6 months, I read aloud. Paid to E. Chen Consulting Services for Family Dynamics Assessment. Every word you said, every tear you shed about Sarah having doubts, you reported it all back to him for consulting fees, didn't you? Emma's face crumbles. "He said you were trying to control her life, that someone needed to protect Sarah from your manipulation. So you sold out a friendship that started in kindergarten for $9,000. The betrayal cuts deeper than Ryan's theft. Emma was at Sarah's first science fair, her high school graduation, every milestone that mattered. She trusted you with her doubts about the wedding, and you turned them into weapons against her." "I thought I was helping," Emma's voice cracks. "Ryan showed me articles about narcissistic mothers, about how they sabotage their children's happiness. He made it sound like I was saving her." I stand, leaving my untouched coffee on the table. "You were saving someone, just not Sarah." At 4:45 p.m., I'm reviewing final catering details when the doorbell rings. 2 process servers stand on my doorstep with legal documents that make my vision blur. Emergency injunctions forcing immediate sale of my BioNova shares, effective at market open Monday morning. "Dr. Haddad, you're being served with." My phone starts ringing before they finish. Wedding vendors, one after another, their voices apologetic but firm. "Ma'am, we have explicit instructions. If Dr. Lena Haddad attempts to enter tomorrow's event, she's to be removed immediately for making threats against the couple." I never made any threats. The security briefing was very specific. Mr. Adler provided documentation of your unstable behavior and potential for violence. We can't risk the safety of our other guests. I hang up and dial the venue directly, but the response is the same. Ryan has systematically poisoned every well, turned every vendor against me with fabricated evidence of threats I never made. The process servers hand me the final document, a restraining order, filed this afternoon, claiming I've been harassing and intimidating the couple with threats of financial retaliation. "You have 48 hours to comply with the asset liquidation order," one of them says. "Failure to do so will result in criminal charges." I close the door and lean against it, the legal papers scattered at my feet like the remains of my life's work. Ryan isn't just stealing my company, He's erasing me from my daughter's wedding day entirely. At 7:30 p.m., I wait in the parking lot of Sarah's apartment complex, hoping to catch her before she leaves for the rehearsal dinner. When she finally appears, she looks radiant in the soft evening light and completely unreachable. "Mom," her voice is flat, distant, "you shouldn't be here." "Sarah, please, just listen to me for 5 minutes. Ryan has been stealing your company?" She laughs, but there's no humor in it. "He told me you'd try this, one last desperate attempt to control my life." I pull out the printed emails, the wire transfer records, everything that proves Ryan's betrayal. "Look at the evidence. He's stealing millions of dollars, sweetheart. Federal crimes." "I signed the trust documents today, Mom." She cuts me off with surgical precision. "Ryan showed me how to protect our marriage from your influence. The inheritance, the company shares, everything, it's all in a family trust now, managed by an independent board." The words hit me like physical blows. "Sarah, that's not protection, that's me choosing my husband over my toxic mother." Her voice turns cold, clinical. "Ryan showed me the psychological evaluation Dr. Mills prepared. The pattern of manipulation, the need to control every aspect of my life, the inability to let me become an independent adult. Dr. Mills was paid by Ryan. Emma was paid by Ryan. Everyone telling you I'm toxic is on his payroll." But Sarah's already walking away. "Ryan said you'd claim that too. He said, your toxic mother isn't welcome because he knew you'd try to ruin this for us. I'm done being your pawn, Mom. I'm done letting you make my choices for me." She disappears into her building, leaving me alone in the parking lot with the devastating realization that Ryan has turned my own daughter into a weapon against me. At 9:15 p.m., my assistant Monica Torres arrives at my house with a laptop bag and the kind of grim expression that means she's discovered something terrible. "I've been digging into Dr. Mills' psychological assessment," she says, setting up her computer on my kitchen table. "Lena, this is worse than we thought." The audio files she plays make my blood turn to ice. My own voice, recorded during phone calls with Sarah, but edited and manipulated to sound unhinged. Conversations about wedding planning twisted into demands for control. Expressions of concern warped into threats. "He's been recording your phone calls for months, then editing them to sound unstable," Monica explains. "Every conversation with Sarah, every business call, he's weaponized your own voice against you." She shows me the fabricated witness statements, the doctored emails, the systematic creation of a false narrative that paints me as an unstable narcissist who can't let go of her daughter. "The psychological profile isn't just biased," Monica continues. "It's constructed from manufactured evidence. He's created an entire false reality and convinced everyone, including Sarah, that it's true." I stare at the screen, watching months of careful manipulation unfold like a masterclass in psychological warfare. Ryan hasn't just stolen my company, he's stolen my identity, my relationships, my daughter's ability to trust her own mother. "There's more," Monica says quietly. "The trust documents Sarah signed, they don't just transfer control to an independent board. They transfer everything to Ryan personally, with a clause that activates if Sarah ever tries to reconcile with you. The trap is perfect, elegant, and absolutely ruthless. Ryan has made himself the sole beneficiary of my life's work while convincing my daughter that protecting him means protecting herself." My phone rings at exactly 8:00 a.m. on wedding morning, Ryan's name lighting up the screen like a taunt. I answer on the second ring, my voice steady despite the rage burning in my chest. "Good morning, Lena." His voice is warm, victorious. "I thought you'd want to know Sarah and I are leaving for our honeymoon immediately after the reception. A private jet to somewhere you'll never find us." "How romantic." I keep my tone neutral, even as my free hand clenches into a fist. "We're eloping again in international waters," he continues, clearly savoring every word. "A second ceremony, completely private. Sarah's idea, actually, she wants to start fresh, away from all the toxicity." The cruelty is breathtaking. He's not just stealing my daughter, he's making her complicit in her own kidnapping. "She'll realize what you are eventually," I say. Ryan laughs, rich and confident. "Will she?" Because by tomorrow morning, Sarah will be Mrs. Ryan Adler, your company will be mine, and you'll be a cautionary tale about what happens when powerful women refuse to step aside gracefully. The beauty is, she'll thank me for saving her from you." He pauses, letting the words sink in. "Oh, and Lena? Don't bother trying to attend today. Security has your photo, and they have very specific instructions about what to do if you show up." The line goes dead, leaving me alone with the devastating realization that Ryan has won everything. My company, my daughter, my future, all of it gone, transferred to a man who sees my life's work as nothing more than trophies to collect. But in his moment of triumph, Ryan made one crucial mistake. He told me about the timeline, the elopement, the international waters. He gave me exactly 12 hours to stop him. And he clearly doesn't know me as well as he thinks he does. At 11:00 a.m., 1 hour before the ceremony, I stand in my bedroom holding the mother-of-the-bride dress I'll never get to wear. The navy silk feels foreign in my hands, a costume for a role I've been banned from playing. David's photo watches from the dresser as I make the choice that will either save my daughter or destroy what's left of our relationship forever. The wedding is happening whether I'm there or not. Sarah will marry Ryan, sign away her future, and disappear into a life built on lies and theft. Unless I stop it. I set down the dress and reach for my phone, scrolling through contacts until I find the number I need. Margaret Chen, David's old research partner, answers on the first ring. "I need a favor," I say without preamble, "and it's going to get messy." In the mirror, I look like exactly what I've become, a woman who's lost everything and has nothing left to lose. Ryan thinks he's checkmated me, but he's forgotten one crucial detail about hostile takeovers. They can go both ways. He wants to play corporate hardball with my daughter's future. I whisper to David's photo. Then, he's about to learn why they called me the Iron Lady of Biotech. I have 1 hour to crash a wedding I'm banned from attending, expose a fraud that everyone believes is love, and save a daughter who thinks I'm her enemy. The odds are impossible, the stakes are everything, and failure means losing Sarah forever. But Ryan made one fatal error in his perfect plan. He assumed that a mother's love could be stolen, manipulated, or destroyed. He's about to discover just how wrong he was. The night before the wedding, 11:30 p.m. I sit alone in my home office, surrounded by the ghosts of everything I've built and lost. The printed emails scattered across my desk tell the story of my complete defeat, Ryan's systematic theft, the board's betrayal, Sarah's trust documents that sign away her future. I pick up the framed photo from my first company's founding. 28 years old, pregnant with Sarah, standing next to the man who would steal my research and leave me with nothing. I'd rebuilt from that betrayal, sworn I'd never let anyone manipulate my family again. The irony tastes like ashes. I survived one manipulative man stealing my company, I whisper to the empty room. Now I'm about to lose both my daughter and my life's work to another. My phone sits silent on the desk. No calls from Sarah. No texts asking for advice about last-minute wedding details. Ryan has severed every connection between us with surgical precision, turning my own voice into evidence of my instability. The grandfather clock chimes midnight. In 12 hours, Sarah will walk down an aisle I'm banned from entering, marry a man who's stolen her inheritance, and disappear into a life built on lies. And she'll thank him for protecting her from me. I've never felt so completely, utterly defeated. Wedding day, 6:00 a.m. 6 hours before the ceremony that will destroy everything I've fought to protect. My phone buzzes with a text from Sarah, and for one desperate moment, I think she's changed her mind. Instead, I find audio files attached to a message that drives the final nail into my coffin. "Mom, I need you to respect my boundaries and stay away today. Ryan showed me the recordings of you talking about Dad and how lost you've been since he died. I can't have that toxic energy at my wedding. Please get help." I click on the first audio file with trembling fingers. My own voice fills the room, but wrong, distorted, desperate, unhinged. Conversations about David twisted into obsessive rambling. Concerns about Ryan warped into paranoid accusations. My grief over losing David manipulated into evidence of mental instability. The second file is worse. My voice, supposedly from last week, threatening to destroy anyone who tries to take Sarah from me. Words I never spoke, emotions I never expressed, all crafted with enough technical skill to fool my own daughter. I drop the phone like it's burned me. Ryan hasn't just stolen my company, he's stolen my voice, my identity, my daughter's ability to recognize truth from manipulation. The final emotional blow lands with devastating precision, and I understand with crystalline clarity that this was always his endgame. Not just to take everything I've built, but to make Sarah complicit in her own destruction. 9:30 a.m., 2.5 hours before the ceremony. Monica arrives with coffee and the kind of desperate energy that comes from watching someone you care about get systematically destroyed. "I've been thinking," she says, setting up her laptop on my kitchen table. "What about Janet Sinclair? You've been friends with the Meridian's event manager for 20 years. She owes you favors from all the corporate events you've booked there." I look up from the legal documents I've been staring at for hours. "Janet. She could get you inside. Bypass Ryan's security entirely. You know the hotel's layout better than anyone, all those board retreats, company parties, but..." Monica's voice trails off, uncertainty creeping in. "But what if Ryan got to her too?" I finish the thought that's making my stomach clench. What if she's been compromised like everyone else? Monica nods grimly. "It's risky. We don't know if she's part of his network. If you call her and she's working with Ryan, you'll lose the element of surprise entirely." I stare out the window at the morning light, calculating odds and consequences. Janet has been a friend for decades, but then again, so was Dr. Mills. So was Emma. Ryan has proven remarkably thorough in his corruption campaign. "It's the only way in," I say finally, "but if she betrays me?" "Then you're completely exposed with no backup plan," Monica finishes. The seed of hope feels fragile, dangerous, but it's the only seed I have left. 10:45 a.m., 1 hour and 15 minutes before the ceremony. I'm reviewing Janet's contact information when my doorbell rings. 2 men in corporate security uniforms stand on my doorstep, my own security team, the people I've trusted to protect my home and business for years. "Ma'am," the senior officer says, his voice professionally apologetic. "We need to discuss your activities today." "My activities?" I step back, letting them into my foyer. "What are you talking about?" He pulls out a tablet, showing me an official-looking report with my photo attached. "Mr. Adler provided extensive documentation about your mental state and potential for violence. For your own safety and the safety of others, we cannot assist with any wedding-related activities." The betrayal hits like a physical blow. "These are my employees. I pay your salaries." "Mr. Adler is now the primary contact for your security services," the younger officer explains. The documentation shows a pattern of increasingly erratic behavior, culminating in threats against the wedding party. "We're here to ensure you don't harm yourself or others." I scan the fabricated report, seeing my life twisted into evidence of dangerous instability. Every business decision reframed as controlling behavior. Every expression of concern about Ryan transformed into threatening language. "You're supposed to protect me," I whisper. "We are protecting you, ma'am, from making choices you'll regret." They leave me with instructions to remain calm and seek professional help, taking with them my last illusion that anyone in my professional network remains untouched by Ryan's influence. The complete scope of his isolation campaign becomes clear. He hasn't just turned my daughter against me, he's corrupted every system I've built to protect myself. I am utterly, completely alone. 11:30 a.m., 30 minutes before the ceremony begins. I sit in my living room, staring at David's photo, feeling the weight of absolute defeat pressing down on my chest. Ryan has won everything: my company, my daughter, my future. He's turned my own voice against me, corrupted my closest relationships, and isolated me from every source of help. But as I look at David's face, I remember his words from Sarah's college graduation. Sometimes protecting the people you love means protecting them from themselves, even when they hate you for it. The realization hits like lightning. Ryan's overconfidence. His need to control every detail, corrupt every relationship, anticipate every threat. It's created a fatal flaw in his perfect plan. He's been so focused on corrupting my recent relationships that he wouldn't think to investigate a decades-old hotel friendship built on mutual respect and shared history. Ryan's overconfidence has created a fatal flaw, I whisper to David's photo. The very wedding he's using to celebrate his victory will become the stage for his complete destruction, and he's too arrogant to have corrupted every relationship I've built over 30 years. Janet Sinclair isn't just the Meridian's event manager. She's old-school hospitality, someone who values loyalty over money, relationships over politics. She's been managing events since before Ryan learned to manipulate people, and she's never been impressed by corporate power plays. For the first time in weeks, I feel something other than despair. Not hope, not yet, but possibility. The impossible situation isn't impossible after all. It just requires the kind of calculated risk that built my empire in the first place. I stop being a victim in this moment. I become a justice seeker. 11:45 a.m. 15 minutes before the ceremony begins. I move through my house like a woman preparing for war, gathering evidence, backup plans, and the kind of determination that comes from having nothing left to lose. Every corporate contact blocked. Every legal ally poisoned against me. Every media relationship corrupted by Ryan's systematic campaign. But as I pack the crucial documents, the real wire transfer records, the unedited audio files, the proof of Ryan's federal crimes, I realize he's made one crucial error. He's been so focused on discrediting me that he hasn't actually destroyed the evidence. It's all still here, still real, still prosecutable. He's just made it impossible for anyone to believe me long enough to examine it. Except Janet. Every corporate contact, every legal ally, every media relationship, he's poisoned them all against me while I was busy trying to be the perfect mother, I say aloud, testing my voice for strength. But Janet, she's too old school for him to even notice. I call her number, my heart hammering against my ribs. If she's been compromised, this call will alert Ryan to my final desperate gambit. If she hasn't. Lena, Janet's voice is warm, concerned. Honey, what's wrong? You sound terrible. The relief nearly buckles my knees. She doesn't know. Ryan's systematic corruption campaign missed this one relationship, this one ally who might still believe me long enough to help. Janet, I need your help, and I need you to trust me even though what I'm about to tell you sounds impossible. 12:00 p.m. The ceremony is beginning. I watch through the hotel's service entrance windows as guests take their seats, as Sarah appears in her grandmother's dress, as Ryan takes his place at the altar with the smile of a man who's won everything. Janet stands beside me, her face pale with shock after hearing the truth about the man her hotel is celebrating. But even with her help, even with access to the hotel's systems, I face an impossible situation. Limited evidence that sounds like the ravings of a desperate mother. Few allies in a room full of people who have been systematically turned against me. No guarantee that anyone will listen long enough for the truth to matter. In 30 minutes, it will be too late, I whisper, watching Sarah's radiant smile as she approaches the altar. Sarah will be married to her destroyer, and I'll be the mentally ill mother who couldn't let go, unless Janet remembers what loyalty means. But even as despair threatens to overwhelm me again, something else burns in my chest. Not hope, something harder, more dangerous. The kind of determination that built empires and destroyed enemies. The kind of love that doesn't ask permission or seek approval. The kind of justice that some situations require, no matter the cost. Ryan thinks he's won. He's about to discover that some mothers don't just give their daughters away, they fight for them. And 30 years of building corporate power has taught me exactly how to fight. The ceremony begins, but the war isn't over. It's just beginning. Wedding day, 12:30 p.m., reception beginning. I speak into my encrypted earpiece, my voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through my veins. Vincent, I closed my first major deal in this hotel 30 years ago. Today, I'm closing my most important one. The head of my personal security detail responds immediately. Ma'am, we're in position. Janet's given us the green light. Hotel security won't interfere when you make your move. Through the service entrance window, I watch 300 guests celebrating what they believe is Sarah's happiest day. Plain-clothed members of my security team move through the crowd as VIP guests, their earpieces hidden, their positions strategic. Ryan's corporate security may have abandoned me, but Vincent's team has been with me for 15 years. They know who really signs their paychecks. Janet, I turn to the hotel manager, whose loyalty Ryan never thought to question. Your staff knows the signal. She nods grimly. When you take the microphone, we'll have the projector ready and the exits secured. Lena, are you absolutely certain about this, once you start? There's no going back, I finish. Good. Ryan's about to learn that some hostile takeovers can't be stopped by charm and manipulation. I adjust my navy Armani suit, the one I wore to my first board meeting after David died, when everyone expected me to crumble. Instead, I'd rebuilt an empire. Today, I'm going to save my daughter's future with the same ruthless precision. Vincent, Monica's feeding the evidence to the hotel's AV system remotely. When I give the signal, everything goes live. The wire transfers, the edited recordings, all of it. Ryan wanted a public celebration of his victory. He's about to get a public execution instead. Through my earpiece, Vincent's voice carries quiet satisfaction. Ma'am, after what this bastard put you through, it'll be my pleasure to watch him burn. Wedding day, 1:15 p.m., cocktail hour ending. I walk through the service entrance during the reception, my silver bob perfectly styled, my brown eyes calm as winter lakes. The first guests to notice me freeze mid-conversation, champagne flutes suspended halfway to their lips. Lena, Margaret Chen approaches cautiously. I thought, we heard you weren't coming. Change of plans, I say graciously, accepting her shocked embrace. I decided I couldn't miss my daughter's wedding after all. The whispers spread through the reception like wildfire. Guests crane their necks, phones appear, and across the room, Ryan's face goes white with rage. He starts moving toward me, but Vincent's team smoothly interposes themselves, offering congratulations to the surprised mother of the bride. I paid for this suit, I paid for this room, I own the ground you stand on. I say loudly enough for nearby guests to hear, my voice carrying the authority of 3 decades in corporate boardrooms. Now go enjoy your party, Ryan. It's the last one you'll have on my dime. Sarah appears at Ryan's side, her face a mask of horror and confusion. She looks radiant in her grandmother's dress, the 3-generation pearl necklace catching the light at her throat. For a moment, our eyes meet across the crowded room, and I see the daughter I raised, brilliant, strong, questioning. Mom, her voice carries across the sudden hush. What are you doing here? What mothers do, sweetheart, I reply, moving toward the head table with the confidence of someone who's never lost a boardroom battle. Protecting their children. Ryan's hand closes possessively on Sarah's arm, but she's staring at me with dawning uncertainty. The psychological manipulation that seemed so solid this morning is starting to crack under the weight of reality. Wedding day, 2:00 p.m., dinner service ending. Ryan steps to the microphone for his groom's speech, his practiced smile firmly in place despite the tension radiating from his shoulders. He's decided to play through my unexpected appearance, confident that his months of psychological warfare will hold. Fatal mistake. Ladies and gentlemen, he begins, his voice warm and charming. Sarah and I want to thank you all for being here to celebrate our love. It means everything to have the support of people who truly understand what we're building together. He pauses, his eyes finding mine across the room with deliberate malice. Sarah and I are building a future free from the toxic patterns of the past, surrounded only by people who truly support our happiness. We're grateful to leave behind relationships that were built on control rather than love, manipulation rather than respect. The subtle insult lands exactly as he intended, a public dismissal disguised as gratitude, designed to frame my presence as unwelcome intrusion. Several guests glance at me uncomfortably, remembering the stories they've been told about the unstable mother who couldn't let go. We're especially grateful, Ryan continues, his confidence growing, to start fresh with people who want to see us succeed, rather than those who see our happiness as a threat to their own power. He raises his champagne flute, the picture of victorious grace. to new beginnings, and to leaving toxic influences in the past where they belong. The toast ripples through the crowd, but I'm already moving toward the stage, my smile cool and predatory. Ryan has just given me the perfect opening for my counterstrike, and he doesn't even realize it. His hubris will be the weapon I use to destroy him. Wedding day, 2:15 p.m., speeches continuing. I walk to the stage with the measured pace of someone who's commanded boardrooms since Ryan was learning to tie his shoes. The crowd falls silent as I approach the microphone, 300 faces turning toward me with mixture of curiosity and concern. Ryan starts to object, but I'm already speaking, my voice carrying the authority that built an empire. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for indulging a mother's need to address her daughter's wedding. I smooth my silver bob and smile coolly at the crowd. Ryan's absolutely right. Today is about new beginnings and leaving toxic influences behind. I gesture to Janet, who signals the AV team. The room's projector screen descends behind me like a corporate presentation, and Monica's remote access kicks in flawlessly. I'd like to present to you the real Ryan Adler, the man who banned his own mother-in-law from her daughter's wedding so she couldn't expose his corporate fraud. The first slide appears. Wire transfer records showing $23 million moving from BioNova accounts to Ryan's personal offshore holdings. The amounts are staggering, the dates recent, the federal crime unmistakable. Gasps ripple through the crowd. Ryan lunges toward the stage, but Vincent's security team smoothly blocks his path while maintaining their cover as concerned wedding guests. The next slide shows the psychological warfare campaign. I continue, my voice steady as steel. Audio files of my conversations with Sarah, professionally edited to make me sound unstable. Dr. Patricia Mills paid $15,000 to provide fabricated psychological assessments. Emma Chen, Sarah's best friend since kindergarten, paid $9,000 to report my daughter's private doubts. Each revelation hits the crowd like a physical blow. Phones appear, recording everything. Sarah's face goes white as she recognizes the systematic nature of the manipulation that's controlled her life for months. And finally, I say, advancing to the devastating conclusion, the trust documents Sarah signed yesterday, transferring not to an independent board as she was told, but directly to Ryan personally, with a clause that strips her of everything if she ever reconciles with her toxic mother. The silence is deafening. Wedding day 2:25 p.m., peak revelation moment. I gesture to the screen behind me, where Monica's remote access displays the BioNova organizational chart in real time. Ryan's name sits at the top as Chief Executive Officer, in bold letters, for exactly 10 more seconds. The board voted this morning, I announce, my voice carrying across the stunned silence. Ryan's employment has been terminated, effective immediately. On the screen, his name deletes itself with surgical precision, replaced by position terminated cause, federal wire fraud. The visual is devastating, undeniable, perfectly timed for maximum impact. The character clause in his employment contract has been invoked, I continue, each word landing like a hammer blow. All stock options, severance packages, and future considerations are forfeit. The FBI will be here shortly to discuss the $23 million in interstate wire transfers. Ryan finally breaks free from Vincent's subtle restraint, rushing toward the microphone with desperation replacing his earlier confidence. This is insane. She's having a psychotic break. Sarah, tell them about the psychological evaluation. But Sarah is staring at the screen, her hand going to her throat where her great-grandmother's pearls rest. The evidence is overwhelming, undeniable, displayed with corporate precision that leaves no room for spin or manipulation. The psychological evaluation you're referring to, I say calmly, was purchased and paid for, as the financial records clearly show. Along with every other piece of evidence, you used to isolate my daughter from her family. I turn to face Ryan directly, my voice carrying 3 decades of corporate warfare experience. You wanted to play hostile takeover with my daughter's life? Congratulations. You just got acquired by someone who wrote the playbook. The crowd sits in stunned silence as the full scope of Ryan's systematic manipulation becomes undeniably clear. There's no charm that can overcome this evidence, no manipulation that can explain away federal crimes displayed in real time. Security will see you out, I finish, raising my champagne flute in a mock toast. The board's decision is final. Wedding day 2, 3:35 p.m., immediate aftermath. Sarah stands frozen at the head table, her wedding dress suddenly feeling like a costume for a play she never auditioned for. The pearls at her throat, 3 generations of strong women choosing love over fear, seem to pulse with ancestral wisdom. He didn't just steal from me, Sarah, I say gently, stepping down from the stage to approach my daughter. He stole 2 years of our relationship, turned my love for you into evidence of my insanity, and convinced you to thank him for protecting you from the mother who never stopped fighting for you. Sarah's eyes fill with tears as the psychological manipulation finally becomes clear. Every doubt she'd shared with Emma, reported back to Ryan. Every therapy session with Dr. Mills, designed to isolate her further. Every moment of questioning her mother's motives, carefully orchestrated by the man she'd promised to love and honor. The trust documents, she whispers, her voice breaking. He said they would protect our marriage from your influence. They transfer everything to him personally, I explain, my heart breaking for the pain she's experiencing. With a clause that ensures you lose everything if you ever rebuild our relationship. He made your inheritance conditional on hating me forever. Sarah's hand goes to her throat, her fingers closing around the pearls that represent 3 generations of women who refuse to be controlled by manipulative men. 3 generations? You were protecting the legacy, not just the company. I was protecting you, I say simply. From exactly what happened to me 30 years ago, a charming man who saw my success as something to steal rather than celebrate. Ryan makes one final desperate attempt to regain control. Sarah, don't let her manipulate you. Remember what Dr. Mills said about narcissistic mothers. But Sarah is looking at the evidence on the screen, at the systematic campaign to destroy her relationship with her mother, at the financial records that prove every word of concern was actually a purchased lie. Dr. Mills was paid by you, she says, her voice growing stronger. Emma was paid by you. Everyone telling me my mother was toxic was on your payroll. The awakening is complete, devastating, and absolutely final. Wedding day, 3:00 p.m., resolution moment. Federal agents enter through the main doors, their timing perfect thanks to Monica's coordination. The crowd parts like water as they approach Ryan, who's standing alone now, abandoned by every ally who moments ago was celebrating his victory. Security will see you out, I say, nodding to Vincent's team. They move forward with professional efficiency, physically taking Ryan by the arms and escorting him toward the exit. He struggles against their grip, his composure finally cracking completely as he's dragged from the reception hall. Ryan Adler, you're under arrest for federal wire fraud, interstate money laundering, and conspiracy to commit corporate theft. The lead FBI agent announces as Vincent's team hands him over at the hotel entrance, producing handcuffs with professional efficiency. I deliver my closing statement to the stunned wedding guests, my voice carrying the satisfaction of justice finally served. Your father taught me that the greatest hostile takeover is when someone steals your child's heart against you. Today, we took it back. Sarah removes her wedding ring with shaking hands. The symbol of false promises no longer welcome on her finger. But she keeps the pearls, 3 generations of strong women who protected their families from exactly this kind of predator. Mom, she whispers, stepping toward me across the space that Ryan's manipulation had created between us. I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have trusted. You trusted the person you loved, I interrupt gently, opening my arms to embrace the daughter I thought I'd lost forever. That's not a weakness, sweetheart. That's exactly who your father and I raised you to be. As Ryan is led away in handcuffs, his carefully constructed empire of lies crumbling in real time, Sarah collapses into my arms with the relief of someone finally free from psychological prison. The company, she asks against my shoulder. Is yours, I reply, stroking her hair like I did when she was small and afraid. It was always yours. I was just protecting it until you were ready to see the truth. The wedding guests sit in stunned silence, their phones capturing every moment of the most spectacular justice delivery they'll ever witness. Some will call it the wedding that ended before it began. I prefer to think of it as the day a daughter came home. "Your father would be so proud," I whisper to Sarah, feeling David's presence in the pearls at her throat, in the strength of her embrace, in the justice that finally, completely, sets our family free. Ryan wanted a public celebration of his victory. Instead, he got a masterclass in what happens when you try to steal from a woman who spent 30 years perfecting the art of corporate warfare. Some hostile takeovers, it turns out, are absolutely worth the fight.
Lena, thank you for sharing your incredible story of turning betrayal into a masterful takedown, proving that a mother's protective instincts can dismantle even the most calculated schemes. The real lesson here is how overconfidence in manipulation leaves predators exposed to the truth they can't control. What would you have done in Lena's shoes? Comment below, and if stories like this fire you up, like and subscribe for more. I'm Eliza Quinn, and remember, here on Wedding Day Justice, veils off, justice on.